Okay, today I'm going to be messing with the cruise control out of my son's 1997 Nissan Altima. Just remove this. It's real simple. Just remove the plastic cover that goes across the driver's side, and then behind that will be a steel plate with 10 millimeter bolts. Remove the 10 millimeter bolts. The bracket comes out. Then this is held in with two Phillips screws. You can see the bracket there. Remove those two screws. Let it dangle down. Then there's one connector, remove the one connector, and this just comes right out. So this is a sealed unit that's crimped. There's no screws holding it together. So I'm gonna defeat the crimps to open it up to see what's inside. I'm hoping it's CMOS chips like 4000 series that I can replace, or discrete components like transistors, resistors, capacitors. Hopefully something is obviously wrong. The symptoms of this thing was you could push the button and the light would come on saying it was on, but the cruise control on-off button, the set and accelerate and resume, those buttons on the steering wheel didn't do anything. Now I found if you held the cruise button on the steering wheel and then you turned the cruise control on, that would cause lights in the dash to flash. Like the cruise light would flash rapidly. So with that symptom, it could be logic, it could be wiring, but the wiring looks good. I should mention this, before I pulled this, I opened the hood where the engine is, where the control, or where the actuator part of the cruise control is. In other words, the part that sucks in and grabs the throttle and pulls it and holds it in place. That is operated by a vacuum pump and a hose and a diaphragm unit that, when the vacuum is applied, will suck in and cause the accelerator cable to pull towards, holding it at a certain velocity. I unplugged that unit and I defeated it by jumping 12 volts directly to it, and the vacuum pump kicked on and the actuation of the throttle cable was witnessed. So that kind of led me to this being the problem. The pump is working, everything's working that makes it physically work is working, and so it's got to be the control module. So that's where we are with this. Let me open this up and see what's inside. Actually, before I open this up, I wanted to point out the crimping that I was talking about. See that lip there that's been crimped over? It's crimped over here as well. It's crimped over here as well. So I'm going to take a small small flathead screwdriver and just go in between there and pry it apart so that this top cover here will come apart and come off of this. So I got the cover off of it. That's what we've got exposed now, backside of the circuit board. Just looking at it, I don't see any bad solder joints necessarily. Looks like it's got a couple of control chips, big chips. One looks like it's a 68 pin maybe, and one is like a 32 pin. I guess I'll know more when I flip it over, but just taking a look before I go any further. So now this board should just pop out. Now there's a couple of screws here. Now it's probably for the connector. That's on the connector side, see that? So, all right, so let me see if I can get it all the way out. Okay, so it came out pretty effortlessly. We got two custom chips. Well, I assume they're custom. This one resembles a processor, and this resembles a RAM or something. I imagine this is a microcontroller, would be my guess, and the program, if there is a program, would be inside that thing, and I don't know what the hell to think of that. I will do Google searches and see if I can find anything about these part numbers, and also this Jitico company. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe Nissan owned, who knows. Anyway, so news could be worse. At least there's things that could be bad that I can replace, like these transistors, resistors, capacitors. Now the electrolytic capacitors was one of the first things I looked at. When they go bad, they're going to pooge, right? They're going to look like popcorn. These don't look bad. That doesn't mean they aren't bad. It's just that it doesn't look like they took any trauma to be bad. So I can kind of assume these are good. The transistors, resistors, there's a lot of diodes, some capacitors, ceramic disc capacitors, things like that. Any of those could be bad. Transistors will tend to short when they're bad, so I'll check all those. Diodes will tend to short when they're bad. The capacitors are most likely not bad. These things last for a long time and they're very good. That's a capacitor. It's if there's any tantalum looking capacitors, those are always going to be something you're going to want to check. I don't see any here. This might be a strange tantalum. I'm not sure what that is, but it's definitely a capacitor according to that symbol there. So basically at this point, I'm going to get my ohm meter out, my diode transistor checker, and just go through all the transistors, all the diodes, and all the components, and see if I find any open resistors. And that's, yeah, I should have mentioned that. Resistors tend to open. All these resistors like this will tend to open. On the back side are some surface mount things. So there's surface mount resistors and capacitors there. Nothing is burnt. Nothing looks discolored. So it's probably going to be one of these big chips, to be honest with you. But I'm going to hope I find something shorted and replace it. Also, this relay, you know, that's a relay. It could be bad, but I would think that if this was bad, the lights in the dash would respond appropriately, and this just not work, because this is going to be a driver for the pump unit that's by, you know, that actuates the throttle cable. All right, well, let me probe around and see what I can find. Okay, so this board is coated with a gluish substance, and if you look at the front side, you can see it's got a sheen to it there on these chips. That's that glue. So I'm only really interested in the back side because I'm wanting to probe around. So I took some 91% isopropyl alcohol and doused it several times, and I scrubbed it with a toothbrush. And now the stuff is loosening, and you can just scrape it off. See how it's coming off? So I'm gonna scrape off all this as best I can, and then start measuring those components that I'm interested in. This is going to be time consuming, and there's not going to be a quick solution unless you use acetone or something stronger than alcohol, which I don't have available at the moment, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. But just FYI, if you start probing and you get no results, it's because the glue is an insulator. Okay, so I've used the voltmeter diode tester on all the transistors, all the diodes, all the capacitors, all the resistors. Everything seems to be reasonable. Resistor values settled on typical normal resistor values, you know, common resistor resistance values. There were no shorts found anywhere. There are basically 3 ICs. I'm assuming this is a microcontroller with program built in. No idea what this is. Might be something to do with I/O. And there was also a small 5-volt regulator. Let's see if I can find it now. Let's see. Right here. Right there. That's a 5-volt regulator. It's not shorted. I assume it's good. I have not tried to put power from a bench power supply or anything like that. So at this point, I'm basically concluding that it's probably one or both of these chips that are the problem. However, I did go ahead and just reflow every single solder joint that I could on the backside. Reflowed the connector. So I'm going to put it back in and see if that makes any difference. It could have been bad solder joints, or even a single solder joint strategically, you know, bad, could cause problems. I do not expect this is going to work, but at least it's something that I'm able to try. So if this works, great. If it doesn't, then I'm going to try to find a used one of these modules somewhere and just replace it. Here's how you get to it. You have to first remove this plastic cover that goes like this. 2 screws hold it in. Then that exposes this large plate that has 6 10mm bolts. You remove those 6, it drops down. Then the that bracket there is what the cruise control bolts to. It's got 2 bolts, or I'm sorry, 2 screws, 2 Phillips head screws. So I'm fixing to put this thing back together. Okay, so if I push the power button comes on for cruise control, but I was expecting a light in here to light up that says cruise. It's not there. However, if you turn on the cruise control while holding any of the buttons, you get a flashing light. It says cruise flashing. If you hit any of the buttons, it affects the flashing. So this is the exact same behavior I saw before. What this tells me is the wiring for the steering is being recognized. The 3 different buttons, there's 3 different buttons down here. All right, so those buttons are being recognized by the cruise control, but the cruise control is not working. And So I guess I'm just gonna have to buy one. Reflowing the solder joints didn't fix it. And you can see it's still on. If I turn it off, the light goes out. Well, that's it for this video.